Hello and welcome back to our show. We are back with a brand new episode of this investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund in association with your personal finance magazine Outlook Money. This Sunday, we celebrate one of the most important days of the year, a day that marks one of the most landmark events in our country's history, the Independence Day. On this day that celebrates the idea of freedom and being independent, we at Outlook Money and Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund choose to take this opportunity to also celebrate the idea of financial independence and ask some crucial questions as to how one can become financially independent in today's day and age. And to answer these questions and share their knowledge and guidance with us, we have some eminent guests, the veterans in the field of personal finance. In this episode, they will tell us what financial independence means, how it is important, how one can achieve it, and what mistakes to avoid in your journey to become financially independent. Our first guest today is Mr. K.S. Rao, Head Investor Education and Distribution Development, Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management Company Limited. Mr. Rao, an alumnus of IIM Calcutta, has spent over 2 decades in the mutual fund industry, and in his current role, he leads his organization's effort towards investor education and distribution development. We are also joined by Mr. Amit Trivedi, author, speaker, trainer, and blogger with over 26 years of professional experience in capital markets. As a trainer, he has trained over 83,000 participants through almost 1,300 workshops across 130 different locations in the country. And finally, we are also joined by Ms. Kiran Telang, a certified financial planner who is registered as an investment advisor with SEBI. She is also a founder member of the Financial Planners Guild of India. A subject expert on personal finance, Ms. Telang has also authored a book on retirement called Mindful Retirement. So all their insights would be great help to us to understand the idea of financial independence. So let's get straight to it. My first question is for Mr. K.S. Rao. Mr. Rao, we know that the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, have been two difficult years. Many people have faced financial hardships due to the unforeseen crisis that we have been going through. However, this difficult period has also made people realize the importance of financial planning. How do you see this period of the last 18 months in this context?
Thank you so much, Visha, for having me here. I take this opportunity to wish all the audience a happy Independence Day in advance. And that's as we are going to celebrate our 75th Independence. It is a time today we thought when Outlook Money has helped us to reach out to each one, how we can look at our financial independence. Probably, we don't need to wait for 75 years to come to us to get our financial independence. Probably how we can plan. And we are grateful to Team Outlook Money for month on month to getting us here and talking to each one of you on various initiatives and the financial literacy per se. And Vishav, I think you said rightly, last 2020 and 2021. In fact, 2020, we were all looking at it is going to be a wonderful year. And a lot of us had a vision 2020. And, 18 months, this pandemic, either we are in the lockdowns or preparing for the lockdowns and getting out. And we may call it the new normal, but it has become very abnormal for many people. We may call it the black swan event, but whichever the conversation we can say, it is a black swan to the people, but it is impacted very much for them. And sometime back we had in your forum, we said, we can't predict, but we need to prepare. Some who prepared were perfectly fine, but some who got unpredicted and it has come all the way, it has impacted us. And it has taken us, on the personal finance, first on the physical health, then on the personal finance. It has forced us to think, look at a fresh at your finances and your healthy well-being, and financial well-being, both. And it has brutally exposed the frugality of life, and many of them lived their assets and everything without even a simple will. They have not left anything behind to the family to claim it right, and there's a big challenge. And people would have been asset rich, but they have struggled for their liquidity, and it's to arrange hospital bills, it was a tough time. All that has forced people to think the financial planning very seriously. And I had a privilege to have many sessions with Amit ji and Kiran ji, and we also had an opportunity to talk to many people over a period of time. In fact, let me tell you, at Aditya Birla, we just completed our 10,000 programs over last 7 years, but during this pandemic, we did little over 2000 programs, 2000 webinars reached out. And I call this entire journey is a COVID to COVID, and it is a time people really waking up, and it has given the people to understand why one need to have a contingency fund and what is the necessity of health insurance. However, we can inform people in the normal course, we would have neglected, we would have postponed on our health insurance, urgency for the health insurance, and need for the life insurance, and I know documenting all these things and keeping family aware of the finances has become again a necessity. And last but not the least, and the mutual fund per se, it is the asset allocation, the SIPs. And if you can see the number of SIPs have gone up in the last 18 months in the mutual fund industry, itself shows the people of they've woken up, and it is good. And I'm sure this topic of financial independence today, I mean, can make us all think not one goal, but can we be independent? Can we be a financially independent? Can we look for it? How we can manage? I'm sure we will be getting the best of the conversations from my both of my friends, and it's how this financial independence can look. It looks very difficult at this point of time for many of us, but it is we can plan very step by step. It is possible. We all can become financially independent. I mean, all that we can do is in this 15th of August, as we celebrate financial Independence Day, let us also celebrate some time with our family, how we all together can become financially independent, and that financial freedom can become motto for all the family members.
Right. Like you said, it might look difficult to be financially independent, but you can plan for it. So financial planning and financial independence are two words that are, closely linked, and, we use them sometimes in the same sentences. So I want to ask Mr. Lang, what exactly does financial independence mean? And, how do you relate financial independence with financial planning?
Uh, yes, Bishop. So financial independence actually means different things to different people. So if we take a generic definition of financial independence, it would actually mean that you don't have to work to earn money. You have enough with you that will take care of your requirements, both short term and long term. So your daily expenses, or things which you need for your goals for long term for your family. But the problem here in financial independence definition for most people is, how do they define enough? Because for each person, that enough factor will be very different. So somebody, they will be very comfortable if their basic needs are met. So if they have a amount coming in every month which takes care of their daily expenses, they'll be happy and they'll be more free to pursue other things of interest. But for some other people, there would be wants also, which they would like to fulfill. So aspirations like holidays on a regular basis, or doing some charity work, or other things which each individual might have. So for each person, the definition would be something that they need to come up with themselves. It would probably start from the clarification of their own needs and wants. So like in last 1.5 years in the COVID times, we have basically been living with what are our essential needs. So the expenses have actually come down dramatically for most people. But that is not the way normal life is. So once things come back to normal, we will start going out. We will start spending on entertainment, on shopping of things beyond the essential needs. We'll start taking vacations. So the expenses go up, and that also forms a part of joy of life. So how far do you want to go in accumulating the corpus when you feel that you're financially independent? So each person will have to think for themselves what is the figure, so to say, that I am comfortable now, I have enough, and I'm financially independent.
Right. So one common doubt that a lot of people have is, does financial independence only mean to have enough corpus so that your passive income is enough to meet your expenses, right? So I want to ask Mr. Trivedi, does financial independence have only to do with passive income, or is it about earning enough both actively and passively, so you don't depend on someone else for your financial needs? So as long as we are defining financial independence, so let's go deeper into it. So what do you think? Is it just about passive income, or just earning enough so that you're not dependent on someone?
Wonderful question, Vishal. And a lot of times people think that financial independence means you don't have to work. Entire expenses, financial goals, and other needs are taken care of through the passive income. It may not necessarily be that case. It actually extends to what Kiran was just mentioning, that passive income becomes quite important in this case, but it also allows you the freedom to choose what kind of work do you want to do, what kind of work do you want to avoid, what kind of activities do you want to engage in, what kind of activities give you joy or happiness. Now, if you make money in that process, great, do that by all means. But it doesn't mean that you have to compromise with your feelings, your liking, your values in order to make money. You're free to pick up what you want to do. So financial independence allows you that freedom. It does not mean that you completely stop working. Incidentally, there is a very popular concept known as FIRE, financial independence and retire early. I was one of the forums I was reading somebody's experience, and this person said that I became financially independent at 35, and then I had decided that I want to be asset light, so I don't want to own a home. I will travel across the world. But in 4 years, I got fed up of this nomadic life. So it's important to be very clear about what kind of life that you want to live and pursue the bigger, loftier goals in life.
Right. So basically, what you mean is that being financially independent is basically having the freedom to choose what you want to do, and being able to do that rather than being dependent on your job and just needing to do one particular kind of work even if you don't want to, just for your survival, right? So, but who has this luxury to become financially independent? Can anyone aspire to become financially independent? Can a school teacher become financially independent, or does it have to be a person high income earning professional who can aspire to be one? So who should aspire to become financially independent? Can anyone do it? Mr. K.S. Rao, I asked you this question.
Thanks, Visham. I think it's every one of us can aspire to become financially independent. It is not that how much you have an income to, which part of or which stage of life you are in, but all that aspiration is one, everyone can have this. And it's like, there was a study at Harvard School, and it's one batch of the students, they did this study. At the time, everyone in the Harvard Business School, I think it's way back in 70s, and and everyone said they want to become financially independent. They were talking this much about. And after 25 years, they went back and made this study and went back with the questions to those people of the same batch. Then the facts, the statistics which have come out is much more. It's revealing. It's only 3% of the population, whom they have interviewed, have accomplished their financial independence, and rest of them, 40-50% of them, they are living paycheck to paycheck, and majority of them have gone into the debts. Earlier, Kiranji was telling, the moment lockdown is open, now most of us are going out. There is a kind of the shopping to the spending. It's the revenge spending they call. Now that the people are doing that way, aspiration you have, but aspiration should have a follow-up plan. And me, Amit ji, we were talking to a group of people. It's somebody who started at the age of 25 and who started as little small savings, and regularly with you are stepping up your savings, you accomplish your financial independence. Let me give my own story. When I joined my first employment, it is like I had a wonderful boss who had come back to me and said, "Beta, यहाँ 12% आपके पैसे प्रोविडेंट फंड में हमारे तरफ से जमा होता है, or all that you need to do is can you save another 12% from your side for your future?" And incidentally, at that point, we are not having this concept of SIP and step up SIP. Unfortunately or fortunately, we have to put the money only in the bank deposits. But still then, we got that habit of disciplined savings. The moment mutual funds started SIPs, and we started investing, but life was very complicated. Even in the between, we need to give 10 checks for 10 months. Again, you have to give next 10 checks to the mutual funds, and you have a lot of hassles. Today, life is much easier. Mutual funds are fully digital, and you can just swipe the button how much SIP you want to do, how much step up you want to do. Like, for example, if you are anticipating your increments are at 10% per year, you can opt for 10% step up SIP. And this way you can accomplish financial independence. Let me tell you, it took little longer time than what I needed, but that discipline has helped me to become financially independent. Then here one of the, Amit ji, I mean, Amitji is one of those guys. Where he was mentioning about FIRE, right? It is a financial independence and retirement early. And a lot of youngsters, when I go to the colleges and speak to them, they say that they want to accomplish something. They are 40 under 40. They want to become 40 proven entrepreneurs under the age of 40. And many of them also come back and say, we want to retire at 40. And here is Amit who proved, you can, next question you can always put to Amit is how he has accomplished his financial independence at the age of 40 and gave up his profession, which, I mean, his employment, and he has chosen the profile and profession which he loves the most. And when your passion becomes your profession, your income becomes a bonus and you enjoy what is coming in.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. And when we talk about financial independence, the idea of financial independence maybe has changed over the years. Also, what was enough for maybe one generation back may not be enough for the newer generation. The idea of money for millennials is also different than the earlier generation. So I asked Mr. Trivedi, why is financial independence important in the 21st century? Has its significance increased or is it still the same, Mr. Trivedi?
I think a few changes have happened at the society level between maybe a period 30 years ago to now. And that means that we need to be on our own. That's where financial independence comes in. Take, for example, my parents' generation had guaranteed pension from the employers. Today, hardly anybody has. Okay, I mean, apart from some defense services and etc., hardly anybody has that defined pension available. So that's one big change. Number two is longevity has gone up. So people live longer. And that means even if I consider 60 as the retirement age, between those times and now, the lifespan in retirement has gone up. But like Rao sir was mentioning, there are a lot of people who are aspiring to retire at 40. Now you add the shrunk working period and expanded retirement time. So if you are not financially independent, then those choices cannot be made. And because of that, you see, and Rao sir quoted that Harvard study, only 3% were financially independent, and the others were living from paycheck to paycheck. Basically, that's where all these stress and related diseases creep in, because you are not enjoying what you are doing. You always, on a daily basis, you get up and say, oh no, again. So that's not the kind of life that one wants. And that's where financial independence becomes important. The good news is we have moved to what is popularly known as the gig economy. And though that gig economy word is associated largely with the youngsters, people above 60 are also able to participate in the gig economy. Because eventually it's about picking and choosing what kind of assignments you want to take. And once the assignment is over, you move on to something else. There is youth, energy, and certain exposure on one hand. There is experience, wisdom, and certain other experience, expertise on the other hand. So both have the opportunity, and with that, financial independence becomes important, and there are more tools available at our disposal today to achieve that.
Right. So we know what financial independence is and why is it important. So the next question, logical question, is how can one achieve financial independence, right? What are the steps that one needs to take to achieve that goal? So I asked this question to Mr. Lang. Can you tell our viewers how can they achieve financial independence?
Financial independence actually begins with a disciplined life. So it will start from starting your budgeting, where you actually know what is coming in, what is going out. So what happens these days is that the source of income might be single or dual, but there are so many ways to spend money. So right from cash to digital wallets to ATM to credit cards, there are several ways in which money goes out. So actually, it is becoming more difficult to track what you're spending and where you're spending it. So unless you get a good grasp on that, it becomes very difficult to figure out whether you're spending more than you should be. So once that is captured, you will be in a better frame of mind to actually, know how much you are able to save and invest. So once that is done, that is the primary step, and that will take some time, some discipline to achieve. Once that is done, then the investment option should be chosen very wisely. So Rao sir was mentioning asset allocation and other things. So basis your goal, how soon you want to achieve the goal of financial independence, on your life circumstances, your other responsibilities that will require your money resources, and the risk that you are comfortable taking. So basis this, you can decide your asset allocation and start investing in a very disciplined manner. Here again, I think it is necessary to mention that it is always a better option to automate your investments, because we always try to judge the markets, the external environment, and that makes our decision making very slow. In the sense, we might not actually take the action when it is required. Vis-a-vis something like a SIP, which is automated on a monthly basis, and you don't really have to think or sign a check or take a decision whether I should invest or not. Helps you create that automation in investment, and it will help you create a corpus over a long period of time. So if you remove this decision making factor at every step where you actually need to put in money, this will ease out a lot of things, and you will automatically start moving towards your goal of financial independence. So I think these are some critical factors which need to be looked at. Apart from this, I think I would also mention that you need to take care of your risk also, in terms of health insurance and life insurance. Because what happens is, if you're just focusing on creating wealth for your financial independence, and if there is any event which needs you to spend lot amount of money, you might end up pulling money from these long term goals, and that will compromise on your achievement of the target. So have your risk measures in place, have sufficient life insurance, health insurance, so that you don't need to dip into your long term reserves for these kind of events if and when they happen.
Right, right. So protect yourself against risk, insure yourself, save, invest, have the right asset allocation, and then you can achieve financial independence. But how can one know that they have finally achieved it, right? So like you asked, you mentioned in the beginning that how much is enough, right? So how can one judge that they have achieved financial independence? They have been saving throughout their lives, and now they have saved enough, so they are financially independent. So is there a parameter to do that? I ask Mr. Rao.
Yeah, thanks, Vishwa. It's a very, very interesting question. And it is from time to time we need to look back and see where I'm standing. It's the assets when you created and wealth you accumulated and your passive income streams which are coming in. All that can meet your expenses, and you doesn't need to look at the month-end paycheck. That could be the first sign. It is a litmus test. Like, I'm not depending on my salary. Rest of the things are happening. That could be a first signal indication that I'm into my, if not I'm accomplished my financial independence, I'm on my path to accomplish my financial independence. And second way to look at is there is a inflation today which we talk about, but there is a lifestyle inflation which is going to come in. If I factored that lifestyle inflation, I was talking to Amit ji yesterday. I was narrating about a friend who is a CEO of one pharma company. Who said, I'll get in my financial independence. I thought I'll accumulate 5 crores of my financial assets. I'm done. But today, with my lifestyle, I don't, 5 crores is not at all sufficient. I need 25 crores. That's where, whether your lifestyle inflation, you need to look where you are there. And the third one I can say is, am I debt free? Earlier on this forum, we used to have Gaurav, Bhai Gaurav Mashruwala. He said in one of those messages, take loans for two reasons. One is for building your asset, that is a housing loan he spoke about, and second could be education loan, which is a must. Where you need to, because that is creating a wealth for you over a period of time. And rest of the loans, he said very nicely in Hindi, LOANA, and reverse it, loan na loan. And financial independence, the third signpost is, I do not have any loans. I repaid all my loans. I am a debt free. And the fourth one I can see is, apart from this, do I have healthy savings accounts? There is a huge money. There is a psychology. I have if my savings account is flooded, we talk about contingency fund, etc. Right? If that is a kind of 9 months to 12 months money is visible to me, and which I don't need to look at my assets to liquidate in the need of the hour, then that could be another way to look at that. And the best way to look at is your earnings outpace your withdrawal. I think, choose your spending and how much you need it monthly, and you have enough money, and you have a safe withdrawal rate. For example, you have X money and you are taking today, my liquid fund may give around 3.5%, 4%. I mean, if the safe withdrawal rate is a 4%, you can look at, and that's where. And have you got passive income streams? And the last but not the least, today I may look very rich if I put my entire money into the equity. I am not sure I'll be the same rich and tomorrow market corrects. And do you have the diversified assets and investment portfolios? And combination of all these things put together, I mean, I have I have a positive net worth, and earlier Amit Bhai was telling, like, say if somebody want to retire at 40, then you have to budget for next 40 years. Somebody is retiring at 60, maybe you have to budget for next 25 years these income streams. And these are the simple tests you can look at. Even 1, 2, 3, you are getting there right. You are in the direction, and you can accomplish. That's where it's a financial.
Right, right. And when we talk about the current times, especially in context of COVID, a lot of things have changed. In the last 1.5 years, be it any sector, right? So I want to ask, whether the rules of financial independence have also changed because of COVID-19. Because I see a lot of people, when I talk to them, there are different reactions that people have to this crisis. Some say that life can end anytime, so live in the present and don't worry about the future. And there are others who think that such a crisis, if you had planned for the future, you would have survived this crisis better, right? So when we talk about financial independence and personal finance planning, so how has COVID changed the rules? I asked Mr. Trivedi.
Vishnu, this is a brilliant example of how the thinking gets impacted because of certain external events. And that's precisely what seems to be happening these days also. And it reminds me of a very classic movie, wonderful movie, Anand, which was a problem with an individual, and he was a cancer patient, Rajesh Khanna. And he says, Babu Moshe, zindagi badi honi chahiye, lambi nahi. So a lot of times that kind of thinking comes in pandemic times. The problem is, whether जिंदगी बड़ी होगी या छोटी होगी उसकी गारंटी नहीं है, लंबी होगी या छोटी होगी उसकी गारंटी नहीं है. So while you want to live in the present moment, what if you don't die? And there's no guarantee. So let's accept that the date of death is never certain, though death is certain, and we have to live the whole life happily. Today I'm in a position to work hard and earn. At 85, I may not be. So I need to factor in that as well. I mean, my productivity is going to reduce definitely over that period. So if that's the case, simply assuming that you don't worry about tomorrow is also not a wise thing to do. Having said that, it is also not wise to only think about tomorrow and stop living life today. Zindagi na milegi dobara after all. You live life today and you live life tomorrow. You enjoy life today and enjoy life tomorrow. And that's where you got to plan. Otherwise, life can throw many challenges. The Olympic Games had to be rescheduled because of the pandemic. What is my financial independence in comparison to the Olympic Games? So a few things may may need to be rescheduled, but that doesn't mean that we completely change the thinking. Certain things might need to be tweaked. For example, you need a higher health cover is a feeling. You need a higher contingency fund. That's a feeling. No, those are good things. But the process still remains the same. That you need to take care of contingency, you need to take insurance, you need to take care of short-term and medium-term goals, provide for loans, and set up your financial goals and build your portfolio to achieve those goals. Those steps in the process do not change.
Right. So you have to live in the present and the future. And when we talk about future, we talk about retirement. A closely related concept to financial independence is FIRE, which you had been talking about, all of you, financial independence and retire early. So I asked Ms. Telang, how do you look at the concept of FIRE? I mean, is it relevant in the Indian context for the current generation? How do you see it?
Yes, the FIRE concept is actually catching on. We are seeing a lot of youngsters who are aiming for the FIRE target. Probably that comes from being in a place where they're not happy doing what they're doing. So what is retirement after all? They are probably looking to do something else. But on the other side, I feel it is also a very romanticized version of things being better on the other side. So if you're feeling burnt out in your current job and you're not enjoying it, you feel that taking an entrepreneurial jump will be much better. The grass always looks better on the other side. But what you don't see is that you are jumping from a full setup of a professional career, of a corporate career, where a lot of things are taken care of. There are other colleagues who are doing things for you. Whereas in an entrepreneurial journey, you will be everything from the sweeper of your office to the CEO. So those are the hidden things which people don't realize, and it might not be very palatable when you actually jump into it. So when you aim for fire, it is possible for everybody to do it, but there is a price to be paid and there are consequences to be faced. So looking at that, the price to be paid is probably being frugal, because if you want to achieve that independence early, you will have to live frugally. You will have to be disciplined in terms of both your expenses and your investments. You will have to learn to shut down the noise of the market and do what the principles say is correct and stay with it for a very long time. The consequences could be failure. Out of 10 startups that are there, probably 2 will succeed, and that is what you will hear about. The rest 8, nobody knows what happened and what the entrepreneurs went through. So those stories are never told. So are you willing to face those consequences? How prepared are you? How is it going to impact your personal life, your family? So there are people who are financially dependent on you. So will everything be taken care of? And what if something like COVID happens again? Though this was like a once in a lifetime kind of experience, but what if something even half of that kind happens? So how will that impact you? So those are the consequences, and you should understand that it might happen. I mean, it's not that everything is going to be rosy or everything is going to be bad. You should be prepared for it. So if you're willing to look at both the sides of it, I think fire is definitely possible.
Right, and like Mr. Rao was earlier saying that Mr. Trivedi has, achieved this fire. He has retired early. So maybe I should now ask Mr. Trivedi how you achieved it. Any lessons, any learnings for our viewers on based on your experience?
When you're jumping in fire, you've got to have your fire protection suit ready, and that's precisely what I did. I was working in a large company. The job was at a senior position and the company was well established. My job was reasonably stable. So to that extent, my salary, the risk on the salary was very, very low. I did not have to worry much about that part. From there, I was shifting to a kind of profession where everything was uncertain. I had never done that work earlier, and the income from that profession was also going to be uncertain. So you're going from absolute certainty to a huge uncertainty. That's number one. So when you're doing that, the first thing that you need to take care of is take a stock of your expenses. How much money do you need on a monthly basis or an annual basis? Because certain expenses are also on annual basis, the fees of school, the kids in the school, etc. You take a stock of that. So you prepare a budget for yourself. That's number one. And then check your financial net worth. And I'm referring to financial net worth, not the total net worth, because though in the accounting terms, the house that I own is part of my net worth, but I can't sell part of my house to run my household expenses, obviously. So that's where only financial net worth. Your financial net worth takes care of how many months of your expenses was the second part. Insurance is essential. In my case, it was not possible to get at that point in time. So I did not get health insurance, but otherwise I would very strongly recommend that everybody should get that. In my case, because there was no insurance, I had to provide for it separately myself out of my own savings. So that was the second part. Third, I paid off the loan, because loan is a huge drag on, it's actually a huge expense. It was, my EMI was more than my monthly household expenses. So I paid off the loan very aggressively by selling my equity investments. The reason why I sold equity investments was EMI is a fixed expense and equity is a volatile asset. Now, that is an okay combination if my salary was also fixed, But in the absence of that salary, I can't have a risky asset and large fixed expense. So I paid off the loan by selling the equity. The mistake that I made was I did not factor liquidity or enough liquidity. Let me put it this way. So there was a very short period where I was liquidity poor. So you got to take care of that liquidity as well. It could have been wiser to continue with a little bit of loan rather than paying it entirely off. So I could have had that buffer. But anyway, so that was a mistake which somebody needs to correct. And of course, you also need to plan for the monthly expense to be funded out of your financial net worth for a reasonably long period, because this is a startup. Your income would take a while to come. And in my case, it was professional services. So my investment in my business was only buying a laptop, and that was all, nothing else. But if you are doing any other activity, then how would you fund that business as well? Is also a question. So the net worth should be enough to provide for that as well. So again, as I mentioned earlier, also the steps for the exact the same. Do a budget which would tell you how much emergency fund you should have or liquid fund that you should have. Second was insurance. And third, whatever were the financial goals in the next 3-4 years. In my case, there are no major financial goals in those many years, because I bought a house. I was not going to upgrade my vehicle, and the annual fees of the kids, the school fees, was the only large expense for me for next few years. Provide for those, pay off the loan. These were the steps that I took. Now, a couple of things. Kiran, I think, did mention about those digressions and deviations. So what do? When you are getting a monthly paycheck, that's such a mental comfort. And when you don't get that, a lot of times people may lose sleep over that anxiety. So what I did was I put some lump sum amount in a liquid fund, and I set up systematic withdrawal plan, which was to the extent of my monthly expense. So every month on the 1st, I would get an SMS from the bank that your account is credited to the extent of this much amount. And immediately my mind told me, chalo ye mahina nikal gaya. But that was such a comfort. So I was actually playing a trick with myself. But that trick was required, and I was knowingly doing it so that you maintain your sanity and you can focus on your work. Otherwise, you would worry about, kahan se paisa le aun? That worry also should not be there. So that's really what I did.
Right, I'm sure our viewers will take a lot of lessons from your experience. Now, when we are talking about financial independence, especially FIRE, so a thought comes to mind that our retirement and financial independence, are they mutually so much related that they cannot be exclusively talked about. So I want to ask Mr. Rao, does one need to become financially independent so they can retire, or is it the other way around and one retires when they become financially independent, or is it neither of the two? What do you think about that, Mr. Rao?
Thanks, Vishal. I mean, one need not retire to become financially independent, or once financially independent, you doesn't need to retire. Either way, it can be independent. Of course, we relate normally when I am financially independent, I can retire peacefully and comfortably so that I can lead a life where I don't need to work for money, and money will take care of me, and I can work for my passion, or I can live off my life of my own choices. That's where people can look at it. But all that what we need to do is not exactly the retiring. All that we need to look at is how I can be financially independent, because most of us would like to become financially independent, and after that we continue to work because that's an opportunity. Earlier, Amit Bhai was mentioning a person who want to have a retired after 4 years, you got bored and you went around and you come back and choose the profession you love to do it. And second, I think we also have a bonus of responsibility. Some of us having working in some of these fields. I mean, you can go on, keep on serving the people. You don't need to retire. I mean, with the knowledge, wisdom, wealth you got, you can do more. And incidentally, when you are doing, I have seen on the spiritual angle, I mean, when you don't need more money and you are not working for it, and more keeps coming to you. That's a very interesting aspect of life, which I have seen on some angles where I associated with some of the people. The kind of wealth they created post-retirement is much higher than the pre-retirement one. It's that's where. And I jokingly tell a couple of them, when I'm doing some social work with them, we are all, I mean, good, you are spiritual, but money you made it. Now we are SIP ritual for us. That is a spiritual. We want to come there where you are created a wealth. We are intending to create wealth. We don't need to interrelate, but keep a term that you become financially independent. And retirement is a choice you can make at that point of time. And sometime back, I think we spoke on this forum. Like there is 100 years work-life book we were talking about, and we may take some breaks, sabbatical. We may come back and do it. And but if you are financially independent, that kind of peace of mind you have is much bigger. Aim for your financial independence, not for the retirement. And don't upgrade your lifestyle to the lifestyle, but upgrade your qualification, upgrade your way you do it. And I have met somebody, this is a week back. This man is 68 years old, and he is doing a startup. He is starting a fintech. I mean, he intend to have me there. I mean, he's asking me, I mean, certain things which is related to the financial literacy. And that's the kind of spirit. But he is fully financially independent guy. And let us be financially independent. And retirement can come, but it's a on and off. When we can come back to work. And most of us are in unorganized. I mean, the private sector, I call it unorganized today, because government sector, those who are, they comfortably retire and there is a pension. And my father-in-law who retired from the government service, and he says, today my salary is a triple of what I got. My pension is triple of what I got my last salary when I retired. I mean, that way they are very organized, right? The system is organized. And for us, system is unorganized. We need to become organized.
Right, absolutely. And before we conclude, I think on the occasion of the Independence Day, I would like all of you to give one message to our audience on financial independence. So we can start with Mr. Lang, perhaps.
Well, so independence is something that is a very worthy goal, financial independence, and it is possible for everybody. Take action, don't just think about it, and do it in a very disciplined manner. So it's not a very far off day when you will actually be financially independent and you will have that choice to work the way you want to work.
Right. Mr. Trivedi?
Independence, as I mentioned earlier, is a choice. It opens up too many choices for you, and it gives you the freedom to choose from those options. And to that extent, just adding to what Mr. Rao was mentioning, whether to work or not is also a choice. So it's not that you're financially independent means that you have to retire and you can't work. You can work. Today, Amitabh Bachchan doesn't need to work, he works. Warren Buffett doesn't need to work, he works. And look at the age, 80 plus and 90 plus. I mean, my father till, we just lost him a couple of months back, but till March and April he was hospitalized. Till then, he was working to finish a book that he was writing. Now, engage into an occupation that, first of all, allows you to spend your time and gives you happiness. And that's the truest definition of independence. Money can help you reach there, because we need money to spend on various essentials plus more. But the moment you start chasing money for your independence, then you are not truly independent. You are dependent on the money. So be careful about that. Be free, be independent, and live the life of your choice.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Rao.
Yeah, thanks, Bishop. I mean, I'll put it in I come from a company, Aditya Birla Capital, ABC. Probably I can say one word on with all the three put together. Aspire to be financially independent, and believe that you will be independent, and that belief is the most important part of it. And the last is see the commitment to reach there. That is a discipline to reach there. Rod Kiran said, aspire, believe, and commit. You be commitment to get there. And wishing everyone become financially independent. And we will be too glad to support you in your way. And the financial literacy is the first step to get there. And let the financial independence happen to everyone. And happy Independence Day.
Thank you so much, all of you. It was such an insightful and wonderful session. I am sure our viewers, got to know a lot about financial independence, how to plan for it, and what to do with it, once you get the choice after you become financially independent. So with that, we wish everyone a financially independent life, and we also wish them a happy Independence Day in advance. All of you, will see you next month with another episode. Till then, see you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Happy
so
Independence
much.
Day.
Happy Independence Day.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.